Hey guys, this is Savannah from earthandwater.co. Today I'm here with Kirsten Wild, who is a fellow yogi and meditation teacher. I love your last name.
Thank you so much.
And it has a
Definitely
story,
one that I
right?
chose. Yeah, exactly.
I thought that was really
Yes.
cool.
Yeah, so I'd love to just actually dive right into that. So again, yeah, my name is Kirsten and Wild is a name that I chose for myself. So it's actually my third last name. Um, right around this time that I was having this kind of awakening within myself, right? I left a codependent relationship where I had just kind of lost my sense of self, denied who I was, my own needs, and truly lost myself in that when I decided to make the hard decision to get divorced. My lawyer said, "Okay, do you want to change your name back to your maiden name?" And I was like, "Actually, no, I don't, because that's not who I am anymore. That was a different person. And I wanted to really choose something that would remind myself of the choices that I've had to make and the choices to choose myself so that, in future situations, I had that visual reminder of, hey, choose your wild, choose your authentic self, choose you. And so I made wild my last name.
That's beautiful. Not everybody gets to, I mean, we all could change our names to whatever we wanted to, and that would be really cool, but we get attached to it and stuff. That's a whole thing. But I really like that you chose Wild because I feel like we really, you know, women especially, not just women at all by any means, but we get told to tone it down and calm down and suppress ourselves. And a lot
Mhm.
of us take that to extremes. And it's really hard to get in touch with ourselves when we've constantly been told, especially as children, to hush hush and tone it down. And so, but finding our authenticity does mean embracing our wild side, right?
Absolutely. And definitely not just like, yeah, I think a lot of times people tend to think of this word wild, right, as this like crazy and like untamed, but really that is what it is. It's just our natural sense of self. So it doesn't have to be this like dark side of ourselves or like out of control or anything like that. It's just really our true authentic nature. Thinking back to, like a wolf or something like that. They're just going to be who they are. They're going to claim their dominance and they're going to be who they are in the world. And I think, like you mentioned, like throughout childhood, what we learn there, what we learn from society, all that stuff tries to like put us in a box and how we are supposed to behave. And so wild doesn't even necessarily mean like not behaving, but it's just being our true authentic self without all of those barriers and those expectations of everyone else.
Yeah, because I mean, like at the end of the day, we are still a part of the animal kingdom, right?
Exactly. Yeah. We like to pretend that we're, in houses and all of that, but we're still part of the whole cycle and definitely.
I think we do ourselves a lot of disservice by trying to section ourselves off away from the wild that is, nature in and of itself, not only in houses. And so a lot of people, go touch grass has been a thing that's popped up a lot on the internet lately because it's so true. So many of us are so disconnected from that natural state. And we don't, sometimes it leaks through because we're all masking all the time. We're all putting on our best show for politeness or manageability or approval, that external approval that we all strive so hard to get. And so we don't know how to manage our wild side without the suppression of it a lot of times.
Hmm.
So, we suppress it until it just, like a caged animal, comes breaking loose at our peak emotional states.
Hmm.
And it does everybody a disservice, ourselves, the people around us, because for a lot of reasons.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the more that, like you mentioned, the more that we kind of suppress it and the more that we try to hide away from it, the more it's just kind of growing inside of us, not going away. Like that wild woman within all of us, she's there. She's waiting for us to answer that call, right? She's ready to like take control and be like, be you, right? But the more that we do suppress it, like you mentioned, yeah, it's always there and it's gonna find its way out and maybe it's in a big profound way for you. Maybe it, comes to a a tipping point, right? Or maybe it starts to slip in slowly by being able to bring that consciousness and that awareness in.
Did you ever find yourself, were you always more open to your wild side, or were you more of like a suppressed side? Like timid or
Yeah, I think that definitely as a kid I was more in tune with my wild side. I think that we all are, right? Because we're kids and we don't have the all that stuff happening yet. But I was definitely always shy and definitely always looking to. I had one older sibling, my brother, and he was actually the one that was always getting into trouble and always pushing the boundaries and always like, "Hey, this is my thing," or "This is how I want to do things, and I don't want to follow the rules." And so I think growing up, I watched that and I saw my parents' disappointment and I saw him get in trouble and I thought, "I'm gonna do that." And I think as women, we tend to be more people pleasers, but already I started to step into that role pretty young. Like, okay, what can I do to make sure that nobody's ever mad at me, make sure that nobody's upset with me, make sure that I follow the rules. And that's pretty much how I lived for a lot of the time. And then when I found myself in a codependent relationship, so my ex-husband is an addict, and I pretty much alongside the people pleasing, then I started to diminish anything that was of value to me because I sacrificed all of that to try to help and encourage and support another human being. That's where I really lost myself. And so when I had the opportunity to reconnect once again, that's why again I chose that name because I don't wanna ever lose that again because now I've seen power of really reclaiming your wild, and I don't wanna go back.
sure. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. It's a freeing thing when you finally figure out how to step into your power. I completely shut down as a kid. I probably was your brother
Yeah.
in the sense I was never a people pleaser, and I didn't understand people pleasing. I didn't understand how, and I'm totally neurospicy and that's why. But I don't always catch social cues for sure.
Sure.
So I definitely didn't understand why people would say one thing and then do another, and then that just didn't make sense to me. And then people would act one way towards people and then like nice and like they liked them. And then as soon as those people walked away, they'd be like, can you believe they? And I was just like, why
Mm,
are you playing pretend to their face? I don't understand. But because I had all of these social conflicts that I didn't understand,
mhm,
I was in trouble all of the time. So, and I couldn't figure out how not to be. So I just completely shut down and was like,
mm,
well, the only safe place is for me to just be still and be quiet
mm,
because anything else is going to ramp up negative emotions in all of the people around me. So I just completely shut down. And it took me probably my late 20s is when I started embracing the sides of me that, well, it was probably before that when alcohol was involved, but like
mhm.
soberly.
Yeah.
Because we all get a little wilder when we get that liquid courage to be ourselves,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
Not ideal. Finding the balance between uh being your wild self versus being an unmanageable self. But that's society and culture. They don't want us unmanageable.
Yeah, for sure. Just was coming to my mind as you're talking, as we're thinking, right? If we start thinking about like being your wild and claiming yourself, it doesn't mean that we go around like walking around just doing whatever we want without any disregard to other people. Certainly, we don't want to step into that people pleasing role. But as I'm sure you're probably familiar with, in yoga, like the foundations of yoga comes down to ahimsa, right, which is kindness and nonviolence. And so, how do we reclaim our wild? How do we be exactly who we are, true to ourselves, while still being kind in the world and nonviolent and not stealing from others, right? So it's not that we're just walking around, spraying whatever we want to out into the world at any time. We're still coming from that place of wholeness and kindness and nonviolence there as well.
Yeah, well, I think that's more of the chaos than the wild. You know,
True, true, yeah.
wild is embracing your natural state.
Mhm.
Whereas, some people do actually want to walk around here causing chaos, and those are the
Mhm.
ones that, I actually married into a family of those, and, they're fine to an
Yeah.
extent until they're
Yeah.
very not, but
Mhm.
so, yeah, there is definitely a, um, discretion involved when you're embracing your wild natural state. Most of us in our wildest, most natural healed state is kind and compassionate and considerate and loving and all of the good things in the world. I really do think that human nature in and of itself, it has all of the potential in the world, like underneath it all, to be everything, peace on earth that we want.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
the chaos and the anger and the all of the negative things that we associate with humanity, the violence, it all comes from an unhealed, traumatic past situation, trauma, generational even. It's deep. And that's healing is what I talk about all the time. That's what our goal is here. Healing
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
individual to heal the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And all of those things that you mentioned, right, comes from a lack of awareness of people being able to actually face it and look inward and figure out what's going on. And I think there's a lot more people now that are really starting to do that. And I think it's so important, right? Because when we talk about this ability of like what we really have control over in this world, we really just have control over like our reactions and our choices. And so, really the best way to help promote that peace and that love and that kindness is to live by example and dealing with our own wounds and our own healing first.
That's definitely all we can do. And a lot of our discomfort comes from wishing other people did differently or trying to get them to do differently or
Exactly.
being attached to how others are and the decisions they make. But
Mhm.
it really is just awareness of yourself because and I had to learn that the hard way when I started talking again in my late teens. Um, Very sparingly to only, like, family. It was always very explosive, like,
Mm.
I didn't talk, I didn't talk until something bothered me so bad that I just was spewing anger all over the place, and, of course, that doesn't help anything, nobody actually hears you
Right.
when you're yelling, um,
Mhm.
so I had to again, I it was a sense of shutting down at first. I was like I shut down because I saw that nobody was hearing me. It wasn't getting through. It was a complete waste of energy, and being angry, is exhausting. It's very exhausting.
Yeah, it is.
So then I just turned my focus in on myself and started, I realized all I could do. I was like, "Well, I'll just show them. I'll show them." And here I am 17 years later showing them. And it is just there's no grand gesture, grand thing that you do. It's just a day by day, one little decision, one little interaction at a time.
Yeah. And then, right, it's up to them to decide if now that you're showing them, right, are they gonna follow the example or are they gonna continue their own choices? And that's entirely up to them, right?
It is. We have to hold those standards for ourselves. And though it's hard knowing that some people may fall away, they may decide that because, again, it's everyone is a hurt child trying to
Mhm.
navigate this world that is stupid impossible, like, the way we created it or the way they created it for us, let's be honest,
Yeah.
because, I didn't have any hand in this. And, yeah, it was here hundreds of years in the making before we even showed up, so we're doing the
Sure.
best that we can. But, yeah. So, tell me about this shed method.
Yeah. So my signature shed method, right? We talk about awareness and how really we're not going to make a change until we have that awareness and we start looking in. And I think that a lot of people in general have a hard time, like, where do I begin? What do I even do? I don't know how to listen to myself. What does that even mean, right? So It really is about bringing awareness, and then if you wanna take further steps, you can. So, in the SHED method, SHED, each one stands, for something different, and it's just an opportunity to check in. So, I like to use this method journaling because I'm a big proponent of journaling. I think that's really powerful, but it's also something that you could do, just check in with your head, when you wake up in the morning before you get out of bed, just really quickly go through it. So, I'll walk you through it real quickly. So S is for sensation. So that's checking in with our physical body, just, what's going on in the body. Sometimes we just like skip on to the next thing of what to do. We don't even listen to some of the physical signals that our body is sending us. My stomach's growling, I'm hungry, or like my legs are really tight today. Maybe I need to go for a little walk, stretch them out, these things, right? So just checking in with our physical awareness, our physical space. And then H is for heart. So checking in with our heart space. What emotions, what feelings are present today? Even if we can't name them or identify them, just like how are we feeling? It can really help us to bring that awareness in. And then E is for energy. What is our energy level like? Low, high. And then alongside this one too, I like to check in with the breath, right? Because that's a big indicator as well of some of these other things. Is my breath shallow? Is it deep? Am I breathing through? And then finally, D is for dialogue, which is our inner dialogue in our head, where what are those thoughts that are going on? Is it, reminiscing about the past? Is it thinking towards the future? Are we here in the present? What are those thoughts? Sometimes, we play the same thought over and over again in our head all day long. And is that powerful or not? And so then once you check in there, if you have time, if you want to go a step further, then you decide, okay, are there any of these things I would like to let go of in this moment? Are there any things that I would like to quote shed and let go of and release? And then you have the power and the ability once you have brought that awareness to then make change.
Yeah, that is yes. I am super excited that you have that because I agree completely that people don't listen to themselves. And you're right, they don't. They're like, "What do you mean listen to myself?" And I can listen to myself talk,
Hmm.
okay. But yeah, where our bodies are always talking to us day in and day out. They don't use words, and we like to, as humans, get hung up on words, but
Hmm.
words are a human thing, not a universe thing at all. So if man, words drive me insane. I love words. I'm very fascinated with words and languages, but people get so stuck on the technicalities, and energy is more of a feeling. It's more of a general direction rather than a pinpoint specific word. And
Right.
so a lot of us don't listen to our bodies for one until it's screaming and something's hurting and it's in pain.
Hmm.
And I taught a yoga class last night and I was talking about this and how we spend the most time with ourselves, and our inner dialogue formulate or programs us to how we choose to be. And if we're not checking in with our body on a regular basis and we're only listening to it when something's wrong, then it takes seven positive interactions to remedy one negative interaction. So we need to make sure we're speaking to ourselves with kindness more often than, or you really don't want to speak to yourself with any kind of non-compassion at any point in time, but we are all human and we all do fall into that from time to time.
Yeah.
But if you're only paying attention to your body when something hurts, then that's the only interactions you have in that relationship with your body, then
Right.
you're going to fall into the, oh, my body's crap. I have a crappy body. Why is this body always sick? Why is this body always hurting? um you need to just on a regular basis find happiness. And like the example I gave last night during class was you can just randomly be like, hey, my left foot feels great today.
Hmm.
If that's what you got, if that's all you can
Right.
find, then that's perfectly okay. We have when we get stuffy and like congested and stuff, we're sitting there like, man, I wish I could breathe. I wish my airways were clear. But when they are clear, we take it for granted and forget to be
Right. We
thankful.
don't even notice. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So it's just, yeah, being aware of all of
Yeah.
those little things.
And I think, and you know, I teach this, maybe not in the same words, but I do this same thing as we this shed method before we start any yoga class that I'm teaching, because you know, bringing that awareness into the present moment. And one thing I always like to remind people is that when we are bringing this awareness in, we're also not bringing judgment with us. So, okay, just because you know my left leg doesn't feel so great today, that doesn't mean that there's a judgment or a story that has to come with it. It's just awareness. It's just noticing what's there, what's present. And same thing, you know, when we check in with an emotion or a thought, we're not saying, "Oh my gosh, I'm thinking about how I have to do a million things," and then we start, you know, the key is to not then jump to that judgment where we say, "Why would I be thinking all of those things? I need to be present. I need to be here in yoga. Like I need," you know, and so just really truly making it about the awareness of what's going on without that judgment, and without that internal dialogue, as you mentioned, of saying, you know, "Why is it this way?" or does, you know, and just purely that awareness, and then we get to decide what's next.
Absolutely. Yeah, you don't wanna label things as good or bad or berate yourself for not being, doing, saying something other than what you did. It's just,
Mhm.
if you didn't like it, then that's okay. You can be aware that you didn't like it, and you can be like, "Well, next time that situation arises, maybe I'll do it better."
Mhm.
Because we always get a chance to try again.
Yeah. Yeah, and and right, we're never gonna make that change if we don't bring that awareness in first, because we don't even realize it's a thing that's happening, right? So, I think the more that we can check in and the more that we can check in with ourselves and what's going on, certainly great, you know, at the beginning of a yoga class, like I mentioned, but also this is something I journal daily, and is something I always like end my journal with. I just write one letter on each line and just like write a couple of words or thoughts. And the great thing about it with the journal as well is I kind of have a catalog of what that is what's going on. So then when I want to try to, you know, add something different to my routine, or I'm saying like I'm noticing a lot that I'm very stressed out. Okay, now I would like to, you know, change that, right? I don't want to be as stressed out. So now I can experiment and I say, okay, well, what would it look like if now every morning, instead of, you know, scrolling on my phone, I decide to get up and go wash my face and take a walk in the morning, which is true life, real example. This is what I've been doing for the last few months. And then I can look into my journal and notice, is this helping? Is this making a change? Or is it not? It does happen to be making a change for me as I'm giving this real example, but perhaps it's not. And then you realize, okay, what can I try instead? And we have this kind of opportunity to experience with like, experiment with those results like right in front of us and have that catalog to move forward and backward from.
Yeah, I love journaling. I'm a huge, huge advocate of journaling for a ton of reasons. For one, our brains kind of work in 5D. So, like, they're
Mhm.
multiplying, dividing, shrinking, expanding all in the same moment. You can have 18 different thoughts about 18 different things all simultaneously. And that gets really overwhelming really quick, really anxiety inducing, really stress
Mhm.
inducing, especially around the holidays. We've got a thousand other things new tacked on to our daily to do list that isn't generally there for the rest of the year. And, so journaling for one helps you take that 5D chaotic jumbled mess and lay it out in a 2D form to where you can step back and be like, okay, this isn't as stressful as I thought it was, because most of our stress and anxiety is completely made up. It's
Mhm.
things we've put on ourselves in any moment. We can choose at any, and that's another reason being present in the moment and checking in with yourself is so useful, because we think I'm stressed out about this thing that is tomorrow. Oh, that's tomorrow's problem. And if
Mhm.
you can just like come back into this moment and be like, okay, what can I do about it right now? Nothing. I can do nothing about it right now. So, is stressing about it helpful? Absolutely not. Is it making things worse? Absolutely is. Then you can kind of like step back and recalibrate and give yourself permission to just let it be what it is at this moment. So that's easier said than done, but that's where the meditation practice comes in. That's a checking in
Yeah.
with yourself as a meditation practice, just like sitting there and trying to silence your mind, which is ridiculous. That is
Yeah.
such a misconception. If you still think that meditation is sitting there and trying to silence your mind. You're wrong. I love you so much. Thank you for trying. We'll recalibrate that. But coming back to the journaling, it does absolutely give you a catalog, because even the best of us who have been trying, and I say best of us is like, we get up at 3 a.m. and take our cold showers and eat our kale and whatever the trend is. Um, Sometimes life gets busy and we forget these modalities that worked for us. You forget
Mhm.
that drink a glass of water every morning when you wake up helped you a ton. You forget that taking a walk every morning helped you a ton, because things got busy and it fell off your routine, and now you're
Mhm.
frazzled and stressed out, and you're like, man, I used to be, there was this one point like 3 months ago, I was so calm, I was so peaceful, everything was wonderful. Why am I over here now? I don't understand. I forget, like, so going back to your journal, you can look at and be like, oh, that's right, I was doing this. And then you just pick back up.
Yeah, I agree, and I think sometimes even it isn't even necessarily that, like, we forget, right? But like you say, life comes up, right? So I know how powerful this, like, walk in the morning is for me personally, and then, like, a month ago, we went on vacation for a week, so the week leading up to it was lots and lots of work, and then being gone, and then the week coming back, lots and lots of catch up, right? So those 3 weeks, I don't know, maybe went for one walk, and it just was something that fell off the priority list for a moment because I was like, "I don't have time," and my brain is thinking, right, "Okay, accomplish all of these tasks, and then you'll feel better." And it's not that I forgot that taking a walk was good, but I think that it's more so, realizing and remembering really how powerful it is, not really that I forgot it is, but as just a reminder to look back and say, "Okay, this is something that you've told yourself before that is good and powerful," and just, yeah, try it again, pick it up, figure it out, and keep moving forward.
Yeah, I definitely forget.
Yeah,
I absolutely forget about the things that help me and whatnot, which is honestly how I ended up online doing all of this content anyway, because I couldn't remember anything, and which is part of the ADHD and whatnot.
sure.
And so I have to document everything. If I don't write it down or make a video about it or write a whole blog
Mhm.
post about it, I'm gonna completely forget. And I cycle through. I've been up here doing this stuff for almost 9 years now. So, that they need updating from time to time,
Sure.
because links will break or no longer lead to where they're supposed to go. And then the website itself will have an update. So you'll have to go in there and fix things that the update broke. And I always read through things and I'm like, oh, wow. So I forgot that I was doing this 3 years ago. Man,
Mhm.
that was a good time. And then I'll just pick it back up. So it's kinda like a
Yeah,
little time capsule for myself. It's it's
yeah,
my it's my public journal.
yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, that's making me think too. I kept a specific journal out while I was going through yoga teacher training. And of course, during that time, your mind is just like a sponge absorbing so many things, right? And there's no way that you can remember everything. And then that is definitely something not necessarily of actions I took, but like ideas and ways of thinking about things
Mhm.
that I love to go back to that journal and I'm like, oh my gosh, like thinking about something in that way made such a difference for me. Like, how can I bring that back now that that's not just like one thing among a million things I'm learning, right? How can I go back into that one piece and pick it and take it and apply it to my life now? And I think that's really something pretty incredible too about that journaling and that being able to go back and reflect, as well as the ability to go back and see your growth and see your transformation over years, over months, over being able to say, hey, I put in the work and here I can actually see the change that's happening and evolving.
Yeah. Another thing that journaling helps, I have like a I wish I could show everybody, but nobody's gonna really see. I mean, they will if they watch the video. But anyway, um, journaling puts in perspective things that you felt like was a big deal, and then you go to write about them, and then you're like, "Oh, well, this is kinda silly."
Yeah. definitely the idea back of, we make things a lot bigger in our head than necessarily what they are.
We absolutely do. So, people are all, again, coming back to, people don't know where to start, they don't know what to do. Every single bit of everything they want, the healing, the positive future, the true self, all of it is just awareness.
Mhm. It really is. It's the first thing that it comes down to because, like I continue to repeatedly hear myself say throughout this is nothing changes until we bring that awareness in. So these are all just tools and resources to be able to do that.
Yeah. And I like your shed method because it gives people a starting point, because a lot of people get like, "Oh, I'm not a writer. I don't." Well, you don't have to be a writer. You can it's just between you and you. That's it. You
Hmm.
don't have to show anybody. You can hide it under your mattress if you want to. Most people are pretty respectful these days and don't go through people's diaries, but
Hmm. And
uh,
I think key too is you don't have to show it to yourself either. We're talking
yeah,
about being able to reflect back and look on, and that's something I find really valuable. But if like that's intimidating to you, or the idea of like having to read it and look at it again is intimidating, you don't have to. It helps you to just get present in the moment. So use it for whatever tool you need to.
yeah, rip it out of the book and burn it if that's what you need
Yeah.
to do. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter. But getting it out of your head and onto paper really does help you to in a lot of ways. And it doesn't have to make sense. It can just be word jumbles, because words hold energy, and you could totally just be like, mad, Kirsten, home. And like it makes sense to you at the moment, and that's all that
Hmm.
matters. It's helping
Yeah.
you sort out your head.
Yeah, and you mentioned like words too, right? I'm not artistically inclined, but for those people who are, maybe that's an easier way to express things too is painting, drawing, working with colors, working, manipulating something with your hands and expressing yourself in that way. And as you're doing that, it's still allowing your brain to like slow down and focus on the present moment as you're making those brushstrokes or you're moving things with your hands or that mindful movement as well.
Yeah, any kind of artwork. I can look back at pictures I took, and
Mhm.
I can tell you exactly. We can go again, my memory is crap, but
Mhm.
taking a picture of myself, I can look at 10 years later and tell you exactly what was going on during that time of life, what was in my head, how my emotions were, anything I
Mhm.
was struggling with. And that's another way that you can look back and see the progress that you've made.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah. So, what about people who don't think they have time?
Mm, yeah, right, so we always say that we don't have time. I personally say that for so many things, right? We just find it's like these words that stumble out of our mouth, like, "I don't have time for that," or, but it's really about setting priorities, and I think that, right, as we, again, look at women specifically, not necessarily always women, but definitely more tending towards those people-pleasing, activities. It's a matter of looking at it, and it's a matter of saying, "Do I really not have time, or is this just not my priority?" And then asking yourself, "Okay, do I want it to make a priority or not?" And if right now, you don't wanna make it a priority, that's your choice, right, as we keep mentioning. But if you do wanna make it your priority, can you find ways to slip this in, right? So we talk about this shed method. That's something that, you know, is these small steps, right? We think about these like healing and transformative experiences that we can have that, we maybe spend 3 hours a day journaling and doing yoga and connecting with nature, and that's all beautiful and well if, you do have the time. Um, but it doesn't always have to be that way, right? It can be these small steps every day. And I think what's more important than being able to spend 3 hours a week is actually being able to show up for yourself in a consistent manner, whether that's 1 minute a day or rather that's an hour a day or whatever it looks like for you. And the great thing about the shed method too, right, is It doesn't even have to take extra time out of your day. If you wanna do that and check in with while you're, in the shower, like I mentioned, if you wanna check in with yourself when you wake up before you open your eyes, before you get out of bed, and, just set your day with intention. These are all opportunities that don't take extra time, or, if you are ready for a little bit smaller step, but a little bit more deepening in, then you can start to invite these things in, maybe 5 minutes at a time, 10 minutes at a time. But I think what's most valuable and most important is actually, making that commitment and showing up and building that trust within yourself, because, you know, the 3 hours of all these lovely yoga and journaling and outdoor things sounds great, but how often are you gonna be able to actually make that commitment and show up for yourself? And it's more detrimental to say you're going to do those things and not do them than it is to, not set them there in the first place. So start small. It doesn't have to take a lot of time. It can be just one small thing every day. And if you're showing up and you're doing what you said, you're building that trust with yourself. So then, when your body, heart, your mind, all these things are sending signals, you're actually able to listen and be more mindful of your intuition because you've built that trust with yourself. And so you actually want to listen in.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a lot, and getting started is the hardest part of anything, and if you have it in your head that you can't start it until you have those 3 hours to dedicate to it,
Hmm.
then you're going to put it off and avoid it, and
Exactly.
but it yeah, it doesn't it because it's just awareness. We're practicing
Hmm.
awareness. At the end of the day, that's all we're ever trying to do because all of the practices, all of the healing mechanisms, it just always comes back to awareness. Awareness of the stories you're telling yourself, awareness
Hmm.
of the words that you're speaking, both in your head and out loud, awareness of the energy that you're putting out. Is it helpful or is it hurtful? Um, I started my meditation practice as a new mom, and
Hmm.
man, man, nobody's got lack of free time like a new mom does.
Right, right.
So that's what I always tell people is that you can have awareness in any moment,
Mhm,
and that's all it is. That's all meditation is awareness in the moment. Checking in with how you feel, checking in with your thoughts, checking in with your energy. Um, trying your best to make the best decisions in any moment, practicing the pause
mhm,
because most of the time when we make these decisions or use these words that we regret, and beat ourselves up about, which we're trying not to do, we're just being aware. We're like, crap, I'm human. Look at that. Go figure. Who knew?
mhm.
We're never going to be perfect. None of us are ever going to be perfect. All we can ever do is try our best in every moment. And a lot of that comes from our instant programming that kicks in the moment something happens. So it's the reaction instead of the what's the counter to that? The reaction instead of I don't remember. But practicing the pause gives you a moment to decide how to act, decide
Mhm,
how to speak, instead of just letting your instincts take over, which is often our harmful, hurt programming,
mhm. Until we rewrite that programming, right, by practicing taking that pause and changing that.
which is just another
Yeah,
form of muscle memory because
yeah.
that's how we got here in the first place, right?
Mhm,
You have an outburst, let's say road rage.
mhm,
So, and every time this happens, your program and you have that outburst and you get angry. Every time you do that, you're programming your body to react that way in that situation. And so it's another form of muscle memory, your emotions and how you react to things. And so practicing the pause, like taking a step back, anytime something happens, you just take a step back, recalibrate, decide. the best. And man, it hurts sometimes. It literally hurts sometimes because you have all of these emotions and words and programmings that are trying to explode out of you, and you've contained them, and you're like, no, two wrongs don't make a right. And you talk yourself down, like an eye for an eye won't leave the whole world blind. You gotta be the bigger person, whatever you gotta talk to yourself
Yeah.
to calm
Yeah,
yourself.
you mentioned the road rage, and that's actually something I've been trying to bring into my awareness a little bit more, where I haven't quite caught myself to, like, not jump to the anger right away, but I do notice that I'm starting to, like, right after it explodes, right, then I'm like I take a deep breath and I'm like, "Well, okay, that's not helpful." Like, I'm usually it's I have, like, a 25-minute commute to get to where I teach my yoga classes several times a week, and that's often when it happens. It's, like, in the morning when everyone's, like, trying to rush to work and it's crazy. Someone cuts me off or whatever it is, and I'm like, "Ah," and then I catch myself and I take a breath and I'm like, "Okay, I have to go teach in a moment. Like, I don't need to be bringing this energy into my students. I don't need to be taking that out on them. Like, okay, let's just move on. That's not gonna make my day better. This person's not gonna hear me yelling at them anyways. It's not gonna make any difference except for to make myself suffer more." So, I think just really important to note that, like, even if you can't catch yourself before, and being awareness that it just happened and being able to reset, like, pretty quickly is just as powerful too, I think.
I agree, and I think, parents would take a lot from that as well because, man, do kids push our buttons,
Mm,
and
sure.
kids are, mirrors to our
Mhm,
own childhood and trauma that we have and how our parents reacted and treated us, and a lot of times we don't realize what we have to work through until we're parents ourselves and working through it without a choice, on our toes and having to keep.
mhm,
But it's super powerful to even because again, we're all human and we're all going to fall into that programming at some point. So when you snap on them and you yell or whatever, you can afterwards be like, "Hold on, pause, apologize."
mhm.
"I'm so sorry that that happened." Just be real with them. Be like,
Yeah, can we try again? That's not how I wanted it to go, you know? And
yeah,
that's teaching them to learn that same way as well, you know?
sure. Do you have children?"
I don't. I'm planning for children soon, so I'm sure I'm gonna learn all of these lessons twofold. Once again, it's like one of those things, right, that we continue to learn and we continue to learn and we think we have things figured out, and then we're thrown into a new situation and we're like, okay, it's not quite figured out yet. But we have the tools, right? And we have those resources and we have those things at our arsenal so that we're ready and prepared, and things aren't going to go perfect, but um, we get to learn all over again, which is awesome.
Sure. It's important to know also that none of us will ever have anything figured out.
Yeah.
It's all an illusion. We just like you said, we'll think we do, and then something
Hmm.
will happen and it'll all come crashing down around us and we'll have to build it up again. But you know what? Every time that happens, it becomes easier to build it back up. And that's why we're
Exactly.
practicing because we don't want you to be discouraged by the fact like, oh, well, what's the point of this? What's the point of any of this if I'm always going to have uh, it's always gonna come crashing down around me. I'm gonna think that I'm past this, and then you're telling me there's gonna come a situation or a circumstance I'm gonna find myself in to where it all, like, just reverts right back to my original program. What's the point? Well, the point is that it's going to hurt less every time.
Hmm.
It's going to be easier to rebuild every time. It's going to be easier to recalibrate. So whereas before you may have found yourself falling into a slump for months because of that one situation that happened, now next time it'll be weeks and then it'll be days and then it'll be hours and then
Hmm.
it's you get more efficient at it, just like with anything else, just like with practicing anything else.
Yeah, definitely. It's all just a mirror of exactly the same thing, right? And yeah, maybe it's going to continue to happen, but it's going to be easier and it's going to, like, build so much more trust and self-confidence within yourself because you take a look at it and you're like, I know I've been here before.
Mm.
and I've been through this before and I can keep going. And I think that's, you know, just as powerful as those tools that we pick up along the way is that confidence that we build within ourselves of, okay, I figured it out before and I'm going to figure it out again this time too.
Yeah. And that's not to say that you won't ever heal anything. Like there, we're such a complex myriad of, crap essentially that's been drowning us for our entire life. So whether that's, it's however old you are. If you're 35, then you have 35 years worth of crap piled on top of you.
Mhm.
But not only that, you have your parents' crap, and they're how old are they? Are they in their 60s? Okay, well then that's their
Mhm.
60 years worth of crap piled on top of that. And then, oh, wait, you got grandparents too, don't you? And whether or not they're even in the picture, they still pass down all of their baggage onto
Mhm.
you. And
Mhm.
so that's where a lot of people, our generations get really, it's the age of anxiety, right? We're all anxious, bent out of shape messes most of the time. And this is why it's not our fault, for one, we've got to stop beating ourselves up about it. It's going to take a lot of digging to get all of us out of this because, the internet is brand new. Mental health awareness is brand new. None of this was addressed until it got to us.
Mhm.
Lucky
Mhm.
us.
But also lucky us, right, for real, because the more that we do our own healing, the more we step into our own power. That's less stuff that we're shifting on to the next generation. And it's less, yeah, they've still got stuff, but it's going to be less and it's going to be, they're going to have role models and things to look to um when they're starting to work through their own healing too.
Yeah, because this is how we heal the world. Just like,
Mhm.
we messed it up by hurting people, and the ripples of everyone's actions going out and touching everybody, until it rippled through the whole world, just thousands of years, and those are what we've been dealing with. But the more of us that can stop that and flip it around to where we're sending out healing ripples. Every time we heal ourselves a little bit, that touches everybody in our lives. Whether it's a close relationship with a friend or a family member, or it's just the lady at the convenience store,
Mhm.
it doesn't matter.
Yeah, definitely. And I think when you're starting to step into that and you are finding your healing and you are finding your power, like you don't even have the ability to like contain that. People can see it, people can feel it. And even if you're not even intending to influence someone, you are. And people are seeing it and they're feeling it, even if they can't identify it, even if they don't do anything with it, they're noticing. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. The truth of the matter is that every single one of us are hurt and dealing with a world that is painful and hard to live in. And once you realize that it's not just you that's in pain and hurt from past situations and circumstances in the world, but it's every single person that you come in contact with also, then it makes it a little bit easier for you to try to look for the positive and try to focus on the positive and try to be the change that you want to be, compassionate, kind, loving, accepting, insert all of the words. And if you're kind to some, and if you go out and you radiate that energy to people, only one of two things are going to happen. Either they're going to be like, "Oh man, she was really nice. Now I feel good. And I'm going to be nice to other people," or they're going to be like, "Well, her life must be wonderful. She must be having a grand time. I mean, it must be nice." And when people hit that latter thing, then you can't take it personally because that's their own hurt coming
Mhm.
up. And even though we want to only stimulate the good and the positive in people, by bringing up, but if we irritate the demons inside people, that brings them up, for it gives them the opportunity to work through them and heal them. And not everybody's willing to do that. Not everybody wants to do that. And well, I think everybody wants to do it deep down. They just don't
Mhm.
realize. they want to do it.
They don't have that awareness, right? They haven't done that work to bring that awareness in.
Yeah, and it's uncomfortable and it hurts. And that's exactly how healing starts out. It hurts and it's uncomfortable. And
Mhm.
then you sit with it and it gets a little less uncomfortable and it hurts a little less. And then there's all sorts of things that you can do to get through to the other end of it to where it feels better and like it's not so much of a big deal. And journaling is one of those things. And being mindful and practicing your awareness in the moment is one of those things. And being like, and noticing the stories that you're telling yourself in your head, because we can we can drive ourselves absolutely insane with the, well, they did this to me and they shouldn't have, and they're not even
Mhm.
sorry. And like that may be true, but every time you repeat that in your head, you're reliving it and
Mhm.
perpetuating that pain. So you have to change the story from something like, well, they did that to me and that they shouldn't have, and like, to, well, that's a thing that happened to me.
Mhm.
And it doesn't have to be a part of my everyday story.
Mhm.
It You can choose that, like, yeah, that happened to me, but I have decided that it is not going to affect how my day goes today, because
Mhm.
that is in the past. And it's really hard for people to let go of the past, especially when you have a sense of your identity tied to the thing that happened.
Mhm. Yeah, I think too, kind of where my mind is going right now is the more that you connect in with your wild self, your authentic self, your true self, the more that you really know yourself. Those situations, you can take that step back and say, okay, what they're saying about me, what this action happened, doesn't have to define who I am. I don't have to bring that into how I identify myself. Just because someone said something unkind to me or something happened in my life that made me feel like a failure, right? Doesn't mean that that has to define me, because um, you've already done some of that work to really know who you are. And if that doesn't identify with who you want to be, then just they have the opportunity to let it go.
Yeah, because we get to choose who we are in every moment.
Mhm.
And you can be something, so you can be someone completely different every day if that's who you want to be. Life is the grandest opportunity to play pretend. It's
Mhm.
all one big play, and you can be the character of your choice. There's no director bossing you around and telling you that you have to be the tortured soul. Okay,
Mhm.
this thing happened to you so that you would be the tortured soul. You don't have to do that today.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
can
if
you
you
can
want to
just
if you want to be brave today and you want to go like do things and choose things for yourself, go do it. No one is stopping you.
literally, you can wake up today and be like, today I am a Viking. Yesterday you were a Hufflepuff. Tomorrow I might be a Ravenclaw. I don't know. A book sounds nice. I might curl up with one of those. It's just day by day, whatever mask you want to put on. Because honestly, being your authentic self, we get a little confused because, or again, words, these words mean this. Therefore, they cannot mean anything else. Well, that's not true. They can mean a whole ton of things all at the same time. And being your authentic self and this play pretend thing that I'm talking about doesn't, they're not two separate things. It's not a faking the Viking or faking the Ravenclaw or the Hufflepuff or whatever. It's just, what aspects do you want to focus on today that you enjoy?
Mhm.
Those are all your authentic self. Those are all your natural wild self. If you want to, being tamed is being the same every day.
Mhm.
Being wild is deciding who you want to be each day.
Mhm. Yeah, and bringing that back into that awareness of, okay, what do I need today? What do I want today?
Hmm.
And being able to speak from there and choose from there.
Yeah. Checking in with your body, checking in with your emotions. What character does your body need you to be today? The
Mhm.
one who drinks water, the one who
Mhm.
makes good food decisions, or the one that needs to take a nap. It
Mhm.
changes every day.
All true. True.
Well, thank you so much for being here with us today. Tell everybody how they can find you and what you have available.
Yeah, so you can pretty much find me Facebook, Instagram, website, all at wildwandering.life. So instead of .com, .life, I'm on Instagram. Love to connect with you there. I do have a Wild Women Collective where we take those small steps, as I mentioned, just 15 minutes a week to start checking in with yourself, start taking um, a little bit of journaling and a little bit of rewilding activity to just, keep that momentum and a great support group, as well as a little bit of yoga in there too. So I'd love to have you check that out as well. And you can find that, wherever you can find me.
Awesome. And I'll link that close by so nobody has to look too hard.
Thanks. This has been so fun. Thank you so much, Savannah.
Thank you.